Skarest on gaming.
Hello everyone, this is Skarest here, bringing you another fun and exciting episode of Skarest on Gaming, where we'll go ahead and take a look at various news that interest me throughout the gaming world, and I'll give you my opinions on it. So what we're going to take a look at here to start with today is something I thought was really interesting, is that Tera Online is apparently going to become free to play. Looks like this will be happening in February of this year, so sometime in the next month or so it should happen, and I find that personally very interesting. Also, looking at their different account tiers, they seem to have a decent understanding of how this should work. I like their system, it seems like. Doesn't seem like too big of a problem here, so I think it's something to go with. Now what they have is they have three different account tiers. They have their elite status tier, which is their actual still subscribed tier, standard $14.99 for 30 days. They have the standard, which is the free, and they also have the founder. Now the founder is anyone who's actually purchased the actual game and then went ahead and installed it, all that kind of stuff. You can even get the founder status after the game goes free to play if you just actually go and purchase a physical copy of the game. Now with the three differences here, you have character slots. For your elite and your standard, you do have 2 character slots per server. You're able to purchase more, but if you are a founder, you can actually have 8 per server. So I'm assuming, of course, now if you were a founder and you're paying for the elite, you get your 8 more. You don't lose the special benefits of the founder at that point in time. The character, race, and class combinations, no limitations. Access to zones and dungeons, no limitations. Genius there. That is the key. That's going to keep people playing. You don't limit those type of things. Now there is an in-game title that goes with the founder called the founder title. The other 2 won't get one. That to me means just about nothing. Now for the entries into the dungeon, there apparently is a certain amount of time between when you can re-enter the dungeon. It is with the default for the founder and the standard, but if you are an elite status, you will get half the amount of time between your entries. And then plus the double daily entries, they'll pick those up as well. There's also a bonus dungeon reward, which is called a Valkyon's Response, which just gives you a bonus piece of gear or item. You'll get 2 of those when you do it for an elite status. You only get 1 for a founder or standard. There is the daily bonus quest. You do get 20 of those as an elite and only 10 as the standard and founder. There's also some consumables that you'll pick up. For example, they will get every day for the elite status. They will pick up a consumable that allows them to have double XP, double gold, double rep, that kind of stuff. And that resets every day. They'll get that for 1 hour. There's also a special mount that they will be getting for the elite and for the founder. You will not get a special mount as a standard, but it does not say anything about you not getting mounts in general, so I don't imagine that should be an issue. Your bank slots, you'll get 72 for elite and standard. You'll be able to purchase more. You get all 288 slots as a founder. Being able to send gold via mail, you have unlimited as founder and elite. You can only send 10 gold in the mail as a standard. It doesn't say there's a gold limit on how much you can have though, only that you can only send 10. You also have your brokerage postings, auction house. You can have 50 of those at the same time as an elite, 10 as a standard, 30 as a founder. There is a brokerage register fee, auction house fee basically, for listing, 5% for founder and for standard, no percent for your elite. Your brokerage sales fee, so how much they're going to cut off of the sales, 10% for your elite, 15% for your founder and your standard. Now, there is no discounts that you'll get as a founder or a standard, but you will get some discounts on selected items as an elite. Everything on this, in my opinion, seems pretty solid. I like their setup they have here. They are limiting certain things, but nothing major. They're not limiting you from content. And to me, that's what's vital. Allowing you to be able to play the game as you want to play it, get to the content, be able to do the dungeons, because they are having instance dungeons and all that kind of stuff in there. So you're able to get into all that kind of stuff. I find that very, very important. I have to give my hats off to Tera for this particular one. They've done a good job with this. I'll definitely be looking at it again. I played it during the beta test. I just didn't really feel like getting into another MMORPG at the time, especially something I had to pay for. But if it's going free to play, I'll definitely get into it. For anyone who hasn't ever looked at Tera Online, I definitely recommend looking at it. Tera Online has a rather well done fighting mechanic system where you are actually need to dodge out of the way of projectiles, and you need to actually target when you're actually trying to shoot your projectiles and things of that nature. And it allows a far more active and involved fighting style, something I definitely recommend that you look into. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it, so I recommend you go ahead and take a peek at it, especially going free to play. You can't go wrong for, just go ahead and downloading it come February. They haven't given the exact date in February yet, but, we're looking at just a bit over a month away at the most, so I'm personally looking forward to it. I think it'll be good. Speaking of MMORPGs, Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. This is basically the relaunch of Final Fantasy XIV since the original release of it, was bad. You'll find very few people that will come out and say, oh, it was such a great game. You'll find most people will tell you that it was bad, and it was. It wasn't a good game. I didn't personally like Final Fantasy XI. I'm a Final Fantasy fan, is a good way to put it. I'm not into them as much anymore as I used to be when I was younger. I don't care for most of the more current Final Fantasy ones. I like my old Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, up to about Final Fantasy X. After that, 11 I didn't really like at all. 12 was 13 was alright, but I just didn't get into it for some reason. I played through most of that game. I didn't actually beat it, and I never even touched 13-2. I've heard good things about it. At first, I was completely adamantly against it due to the fact that the horribleness that was 10-2 in my opinion, but I didn't touch it. But anyway, The Realm Reborn is being released. They do have the trailer out for it, which you'll find the link below, but they're also accepting applications for the beta testing. I'll have the link below for both the European and for the North American beta test application. It is two separate websites for the beta test. You'll have to fill out some information. Now, if you're a legacy member, basically meaning if you already played the game, you should already be into the beta test or be accessed into the beta test. I will be, of course, applying for it, hopefully getting in. And now there is a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, on it to begin with. But once that lifts, I plan on being able to have some video. I'll record some video and stuff like that if I can get into it beforehand, and be prepared to get that out pretty quickly once they lift any NDA that may be on it and allow us to put the information out. But this is something I think is interesting. You should go ahead and take a peek into it, see if it's anything that you're at all possibly looking into. Now we also have the PlayStation 2 manufacturing has ended. It's been pushing strong for 12 years now. It was released back in 2000. The most successful game system of all time. Just in pure numbers of how many units it sold, the games for it, how long they supported it was just insane. But it's time for them to finally end manufacturing, which a lot of people, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they didn't know that it was still being manufactured up till just recently anyway. Now, they've been going on for 12 years, sold 150 million units, over 150 million units, has over 10,000, just a little bit shy of 11,000 games in its library, which is insane. And 1.5 billion games sold, as well as some of the best games that's ever been released in history. Things like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Shadow of the Colossus, which is an amazing game. If you have not played, please, dear Lord, pick it up. You can get the HD remix of Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, and you can pick those up on PSN. I definitely recommend getting it. So, it's a sad time to finally see this go ahead and die, and I'd like to recap a few of my favorite personal PlayStation 2 games that I would recommend people to look into, starting with, first off, Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus is quite possibly the definition of what it means to be art in gaming. When you hear about people coming out saying that, oh, gaming's not art and all that kind of stuff, and how wrong they actually are, this is the definition of what it is to have art in gaming. So I definitely recommend that it's something that you guys pick up. You can't go wrong with this game. It's just absolutely beautiful, beautiful game. What it is, for anyone who's not familiar with it, and if you never looked at it and you want to find an interesting gameplay on it, I'll put a link below, and actually I think I have the channel already listed on my channels below, from a gentleman called Steven Plays. He does a great LP of Shadow of the Colossus. He knows the games backwards and forwards. That's why you won't see me do one more than likely anytime, because he happens to do a very, very good job of it. But if you're looking for one, watch that. What it is, basically, is you have 16 of these gigantic bosses is what you're going to fight. There's not normal enemies as you're going throughout the game. There's just these 16 bosses. And so there's these huge bosses that you're going to have to fight, and you have to climb them and do all kinds of various type of things to get on top of them to find their weak points, in which you're going to stab those weak points with your sword and then attempt to ultimately kill it. What makes this game so fantastic, and what makes this game literally one of the first representations of what it means to be art in gaming, is the fact, not only one, it's just a beautiful game. It really is gorgeous. It's the storyline. The story behind this game was just extremely well done. They did a great job with it. Definitely recommend that you play this game. If you've never played this game, you have to pick it up. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Now, my probably personal favorite game for the PS2, Dragon Quest VIII. Now, Dragon Quest VIII, all the art for that was done with the Akira Toriyama, who is the gentleman who did Dragon Ball Z. So, if you look at Dragon Ball, you'll notice, hey, this art style looks really, really similar, because it is. But it's one of the best games out there. It's one of my favorite RPGs, and definitely my favorite one from the PlayStation 2. I highly recommend that you pick that up if you've never been able to play through Dragon Quest VIII. It's just visually an appealing game. It's nice, bright colors throughout the entire thing. The characters are fun. They're all voice acted except for the main character, the governor. But everyone is voice acted into it, so you've got all that kind of niceness. You're not going to have to read through all the text if that's not your style. Personally, I have no problem with text reading games, but everyone is a little different. It's a gorgeous game. Great story going on with it. Very long game. I remember I put a great deal of hours into playing through that one. So I definitely recommend picking up. Plus, you do have bonus content actually after you beat the game, when you can go into the, I can't remember exactly they're called. I want to say it's the Dragon Trials, or Trial of the Dragon. It's something of that nature. It's been a while since I played it, I'll be honest. But pick it up. And then, of course, my other one being one of my favorite from there is Final Fantasy X. Everyone here has probably seen or played through Final Fantasy X, or at least is somewhat familiar with the game. One of the better storylines out there. Very sad storyline about a love story between these two characters and a relationship between a boy and his father. Ultimately, very sad story in the long run, but still nonetheless a great story. What they introduced in Final Fantasy X, of the things I liked personally, is this is the first Final Fantasy where they said voice acting. So we have voice acting going on in all of this particular game, and it brings some of the best moments in the world. If you ever need a good laugh, look for what's the Tidus and Yuna laughing scene from Final Fantasy X. That will always brighten your day, because it's the most ridiculous thing you could possibly ever hear. It's rather funny and absolutely nut jobbish as far as how that goes. The voice acting wasn't done fantastically, needless to say, but it was done. It did add a new element to the Final Fantasy. And then for me, of course, it's the fact that they brought in the sphere grid. The sphere grid I thought was a great leveling system. Instead of your standard leveling where you're going to go ahead and you reach level 2, so your HP went up by this many points, and your attack power by this many, and your magic points by this many. Instead, you have this huge grid that you can place spheres into as you're progressing through the grid. And in this grid are the various aspects that you would increase. Your new abilities, your HP, your MP, your attack power, your magic power, all that kind of stuff is actually brought into you as you're progressing through the sphere grid. Now, what makes it interesting is that as you get far enough into it, you're able to actually interact and get into everyone else's sphere grids. This allows you to basically make every character as powerful as any other character. Now, the reason I like this system, because it makes me think of a lot of Final Fantasy VI. Not that Final Fantasy VI had anything like a sphere grid, but one of the things I liked about Final Fantasy VI is the fact that you could make any character your most powerful character. Any character can learn all the magic and all that kind of stuff, and it allows you to basically go, listen, these are the characters I want. There's a few special abilities that only certain characters have, like Loki had Steel and things of that nature, but for the most part, you can learn all the magic and all that stuff, and it allows you to play the game as you so desire, with the characters as you so desire. And so doing that with Sphere Grid is nice. The one thing I've always wanted to do, and I haven't been able to do yet, I don't own an international version of the PS2, but I wanted to play through the international version due to the fact that it has the International Expert Sphere Grid, which allows you a lot more customizability, I guess if you want to make up that word. And it also has a couple other bosses that were not in the North American version, the Dark Aeons. I've never been able to get my hands on it. I don't have an international PS2, and I haven't felt like emulating it or anything of that nature. One of these days, I'm going to make it a point to get a hold of that. But if you can yourself, I'd recommend doing it. It's a great way to play it. It allows you for far more customizability and makes it a fair bit of fun. It's a great game, one I definitely recommend picking up. So with that, folks, we did a fond adieu to the PlayStation 2. It's a great system, went on to a very, very long life, and probably is going to be most people's best system of their, of their lives, I guess you could say, or at least the most memories. For me, it's still the Super Nintendo, but the PlayStation 2 definitely comes in second with the games that it was able to produce for us. Okay, folks, the last bit of news we're going to talk about here is, I'm sure a lot of people heard about it, and I just want to get into it a little bit as well, is the debacle that was WarZ. For anyone who's not aware, WarZ is a zombie survival type of game, and it is pretty much exactly in the vein of DayZ, which is the same thing that works off the Arma engine. You have to pick up Arma. They're working on a standalone version of the game now, but at the moment there's not one. But DayZ, or WarZ, excuse me, was done by, excuse me if I can't remember his name exactly or how to pronounce it, Sergey Titov, I believe how it is, who made the Big Rigs racing game, which is probably the worst game you could ever possibly play. And if you ever want a good laugh, I'll look it up and I'll find the video and I'll post it below in the comments. It's one of the one gaming website's review on it where the reviewer never actually says anything. He just lets you see him playing the game, and you can see how bad the game is purely because of that. Well, there's been a whole debacle, and there continues to be a debacle on the things going on with this game, between the fact that it was actually pulled off of Steam, and Steam issued refunds to anyone who wanted them, who purchased through Steam. Now, if anyone is familiar at all with it, Steam does not give refunds. That is not what Steam does. If you buy a game from Steam, it's yours for life, or at least until they ban you, if they happen to do that, which, Steam is very good. I've never had issues with them. But anyway, they issued refunds, which that's an interesting thing for Steam to do, the fact that they would. And the main reason is because on the Steam page, they'll claim it was miscommunication. It wasn't. The reason I say that is because miscommunication implies that you weren't intentionally trying to mislead anybody, and I believe that they were. There were features listed on the Steam page, listed specifically as, these are what the game has. And then everyone finds out, no, the game doesn't have any of these features. And their response was, oh, no, these are things we're going to put into the game. No, these are things that you listed that the game has. So that started a huge debacle at that point in time, with people getting upset about that. I think it was on Steam for 2 days, maybe, before Steam pulled it off at that point in time, and they had to go back to selling it on their own, through their own website. That's part of the problem. Other issues is just the way they seem to treat their community. Between things, and I do ask you to forgive my language here, but between things with the founder of the game, ultimately the guy in charge of the game, calling campers fags, and things of that nature, dealing with things of the mass bans that they're issuing, where they're sitting there and going, hey, we're actually banning all these hackers, and you come to find out that, a lot of the people you banned aren't hackers. To now even today, where if you actually send an email about the fact that you had an account banned, they send you a canned response. If you send an email that's from an email address that you just made and has nothing to do with the game, you don't have an account registered with it, you'll get this canned response of, well, we have proof that you are hacking, so you are banned. But this email has never actually bought this game, so that means it's impossible that you actually looked at anything dealing with my account. Now, some people will say, oh, this is canned response, a lot of customer service things do this and that kind of stuff. No, this is bad. When you are already getting, strung up for the things that you're doing, you don't do anything else that could be even remotely dumb in that fashion. You need to actually talk to your customer base at that point in time. So there's all kinds of issues going on with that. If you play the game and you enjoy it, fantastic. I give all power to you. I firmly believe play any game that you enjoy. However, the things they've been doing have really turned me off from even a vague interest in looking at this company pretty much ever again. If you do something that bad as they have done in handling everything with this game, you've just shot yourself in the foot. You're not going to recover from this anytime soon. So, well, folks, that's going to do it for me today. I do thank everyone for watching. If you have any questions, comments, go ahead and leave them below. Otherwise, I do ask you go ahead and subscribe and like the channel. That would do me great benefits. Otherwise, folks, I ask you to keep on gaming.